First of all, I don't anticipate what people call a war. I anticipate, if it happens, a series of military incidents, military strikes, a tit-for-tat, attack on Iran reciprocating, but not full-scale war. I do not anticipate the United States or Israel landing troops on Iranian soil, leading to something that looks like Iraq or Afghanistan. This is much more like what the U.S. did, if it happens, what the U.S. did before the invasion of Iraq under Clinton, which was periodic bombing assaults, missile assaults, with some possibility of Iranian retaliation. Now, it should be said that such incidents can spark something much bigger. There's a way in which war can acquire its own momentum and lead to something far more unanticipated by either side. So that has to be said. But I don't think anybody is planning for war. So let me say that first. Second thing I will say is that this is being driven not by hostility between the main actors, between Israel and the United States on one side and Iran on the other side. It's being driven by political forces within each of these countries. The Iranian leadership, the clerical leadership, is struggling amongst themselves for jockeying for power among conservative clerics and among themselves for power, and also to divert the Iranian population, which is suffering economically, by creating an atmosphere of war and Western threats to distract them from their economic misery. The Israeli government is Benjamin Netanyahu faces attacks from his right, and he's trying to posture himself as being the toughest man defending Israel. So he's facing a domestic predicament that drives his war talk. And then President Obama is left to himself, would seek a negotiated outcome, but is facing a very strong challenge from the Republican presidential candidates, from the Republican right, who is saying he's being weak in the face of the Iranian threat, and he's being pushed to adopt a more and more militant stance. And the Republican right is colluding with the Israeli right to push him in that direction and to make him look indecisive. So he's got to overcome that domestic weakness. So there are three leaders who are worried about their domestic position all being pushed into a more and more belligerent stance for domestic consumption. The problem with this is it creates a self-sustaining momentum. They each have to be more threatening to the other, and this leads to a greater and greater risk of things getting out of any of their ability to control. And I do worry that out of this belligerent atmosphere, this poisonous atmosphere, that somebody is going to feel forced to do something decisive that will spark a much bigger conflict. And that's really my worry. There's not really any issue that cannot be resolved through peaceful negotiations. But in this poisonous political environment, that's proving very difficult to overcome.